Hello, I'm George Shilling. I'm a music producer and musician. I started playing the cello when I was 7 years old because I grew up in a very musical household. My father and mother were opera singers, which was very embarrassing whenever I had friends around because my dad would be doing his singing practice in the front room in the house going, oh. He was a principal baritone at the English National Opera at the London Coliseum, and I got dragged along to all the first performances. Decided to go to the Royal College because that's where my father had also sung and taught and studied, and I had to go in 5 days a week, and it was a bit old-fashioned and a bit stuffy, and I was kind of also, you know, much more interested in the rock and roll. A lot of my work is remote these days, and you know, obviously I love what Airgigs does because it brings projects to me that I wouldn't otherwise trip over. And it's nice that people can kind of browse on there and see, and they might go, oh, he's worked with Steve Winwood, I love Steve Winwood. And then that gives me that little bit of credibility, you know, or somebody in my CV that I've happened to have tripped over over the years. But when I get something, I want to give them what they're asking for, so it's trying to suss out what's going to work and what's going to please them and what will achieve what they're hoping to achieve. Say with a cello part, the first question is, have you got a part in mind? Have you, you know, even if it's something you've sung down the microphone as the idea of the part, perhaps you've got a PDF score of the part or a MIDI version of it or something like that. Or do you want me to write what I think's appropriate? And if you want me to write what I think's appropriate, do you want it all the way through? Do you only want it in the choruses? Do you want it in the middle eight? Do you want it to sound like something I've done previously? Do you want it to sound nothing like that? Do you want it to sound like a section? Do you want 6 cellos on there? Do you want a 3-part harmony? So it's really kind of getting clear in my mind what we're aiming to achieve. I might even ask them what the song's about, because we're, you know, obviously it's relevant to why do you want a bit of cello on there? Sometimes they'll have an idea, and occasionally I'll do exactly what they've sent me if they've sent me a part. And if I've got an idea that comes to me, which I think would be better, I'll send them that as an alternative as well, and then they can either edit between them or use mine instead or stick with their original idea. It's just about kind of trying to send somebody what they want, obviously, and getting paid for it, which is wonderful. You know, so that's the brilliant thing with Airgigs. You know you're going to get paid. You know it's all going to kind of come out in the wash, and hopefully everyone will be happy. And so far everyone has been. Hang on then. All right. When I'm doing a cello part, I sort of very often get sent the track, and I'll sit down, and the old-fashioned way of writing out on a bit of manuscript paper, I'll get my erasable pen out. These are the world's best producer trick, the friction pens, because you can rub out things. So I'll sit down with the track. You know, one of my most regular clients for cello parts is David Knopfler, who was in dire straits, and happens to be a neighbour of mine fairly near here, and I helped mix an album with him 24 years ago. In the last 5 years, been back in touch with him, doing lots and lots of cello parts for him. They send me the track and I'll sit down and I'll actually just sing it in my head what I think's going to work and scribble it out, and kind of just listening backwards and forwards a few bars at a time until I think I've got a part. I mean, that's the wonderful thing about the cello, it's about the same range as my voice in terms of the pitches, so I can sing along with the track until I find something that works, that doesn't clash with these vocals too much, but is interesting enough to sort of fit in the gaps without it becoming the bass part or stealing from that. You know, there's a certain amount of jiggery-pokery to do to make sure it's going to work okay. Stitch all the best bits together and send it back to David. Although he's a neighbour, I never see him. It all goes over the internet. It's all online working, just like you do through Airgigs. And 9 out of 10 times, he's perfectly happy with whatever I send him. The miracles of modern technology.
Where the men